Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Tome Travelers, science fiction fantasy book club podcast. This is episode 26, and we are going to be talking about Red Rising, is part 2 through chapter. What was
Part
it?
Part
3,
2 through part
chapter
3,
20.
28.
Yeah.
It's a weird gap, but we stopped at 28 of part 3, or chapter 28. Words are difficult. But yeah, before we get into that, a couple quick announcements. Our Patreon is live. It's out. If you want early access to episodes and tons of bonus content, you can go ahead over onto our Patreon link. Link is down in the description below. It's also on our link tree, which if you have our bookmarks, you can scan that and figure it out there. And so, yeah, we also have our Discord open, which you can join, become part of the community, and stuff like that. Before we get into our spoilery discussion, though, we've got a fantasy question this week. You gonna hit that, Whitson?
Sure. What sci-fi fantasy symbol would you get a tattoo of, and why?
All right, who's taking this first?
I'll go first, because I already got mine planned out.
Okay, cool.
So, this is one I've already thought about, but so I'm going to tie into this. I'm going to do like kind of like a rose into a map, into a compass type thing on my hand, and I want it to kind of wrap. I haven't got the map picked out yet, but like in the middle of the map right here, I want journey before destination.
Yeah.
And which is the oath, one of the oaths from Stormlight. So I think it'll be really sick. I thought about getting the Edge Runner thing too, but
yeah.
I thought about getting the Windrunner symbol.
So I saw a really cool Crooked Warden tattoo too that I really like.
Yeah. Yeah. Also the Bondsmage card thing. I've definitely thought about that. Getting some rings. But the one that I've wanted for the longest is from Full Metal Alchemist, and it's Scar's sleeve that he has. His explosive making sleeve.
Alchemy tattoo.
His alchemy tattoo.
All right, so mine, I've thought about this for like a while, but I feel like I can't do it yet because for those of you who haven't ever seen me in person, I'm like a toothpick in terms of my build, so I need to wait until I have like some actual meat on my bones and like I grow into myself. I guess that's the way. I don't know, but I want to get a sleeve. And what I'm going to turn my sleeve into is basically just a library of all the books that I've read and loved. And so, like, I'll get, like... So the first one that I'm going to get is I'm going to get the Truth Watcher symbol. But then I also want to get the Bridge 4 symbol. And then I'll probably end up, like, later down along the lines getting the Mistborn symbol and just symbols of different books. Like the dragon from Wheel of Time, the symbol of
the turtle bear. I thought about the turtle bear from Lightbringer also.
Yeah. So just like basically different symbols that represent all of the books that I've loved. So that way, like by the time I'm like 50 or whatever, my arm is just like my library, basically.
Sleeved out. Yeah.
That's a cool idea. Well, let us know what you would get tattooed on you from a book.
That's like I don't know if y'all have seen it, the TikTok, but it's he's got like line work done all on his whole arm. It's a little hexagon square or like squares.
Hexagon tiles.
Yeah.
Tessellation.
Little tessellations, and each tessellation is a different tattoo from a different tattoo shop across America. And so like when he's in a random place, he'll stop at a tattoo shop and let them fill out that hexagon or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's dope.
You can do that with book. It's really cool. Like it's a really cool idea too, because like you got,
yeah,
I don't know, much different. I don't know. I think that's cool. But
yeah,
no, that's sick. That is awesome.
All right, but with that, we're gonna go ahead and jump into episode 26 of the Tome Travelers.
Red Rising.
All right, Dylan. Let's with the synopsis.
All right, so we started right after Darrow's death, and we see that his uncle Darrow had slipped him a little roofie, and we meet the Sons of Ares. They show him the the surface, and that the golds have basically just been using them as slaves, and every other color, all that stuff. And then we go into him wanting revenge for his wife and the Reds, and he gets this like surgery, like this very painful surgery, dies during it, comes back again.
Ripper Doc, man. It's like a
Yeah.
cyberpunk Ripper Doc.
Exactly. And he gets all that surgery to become a gold and infiltrate their society. He applies to their top level of basically like their West,
Mm-hmm.
and infiltrates them, does the test, excels at it, and then he joins. He gets in, does so well they think he cheated, and then we see him start the school, and it's basically like a Hunger Games esque type war game, where you have the different houses, and they have different keeps, and they're all against each other. Really cool concept. And right now, he's just like struggling to figure the game out. He's meeting friends, well, making friends with the Golds, which we're gonna see how that works out since he's like against the Golds, and seeing that their society isn't everything he thought it was. What did y'all think about this part?
I'm still getting thrown off by the first person present tense.
Yeah.
Yeah, MD told me the same thing. I told him I didn't mind it because I don't know, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But
I was talking to y'all earlier, but I'll say it again. Like, when you tell stories, you tell them, like, you tell stories kind of the way that Empire of the Vampire is told. Where, like, if
Right.
we're sitting around the campfire and I'm telling you what happened in my day, it's first person, but it's past tense. And so, like, I can read that and it makes sense to me. But, like, first person present tense, you don't really tell stories that way or hear stories or watch stories that way. And so it throws me off. But the reason I stuck through it is because the plot is really good, and I really like what's happening. I'm really intrigued by like this whole world and everything.
What's that dog doing? He's got to go find out what that dog doing.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't know. The way I kind of described it while we wait for Dylan to get back here, the way I kind of described it is like when you're playing video games with your friends, that's the only real time you're like talking the way that this book is written, where it's like, if you're playing like a game of Counter-Strike, you're like, guys, he's pushing out on A. I see him pushing on A. All right, I'm flanking. I'm walking behind him. They don't see me. Like, that's the only really time that happens. It doesn't make for good storytelling.
So to me, it's like watching like a POV movie or TV show. Like,
it's kind of Cloverfield-y.
Right. So like I get where you're thinking like a book should be like telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
To me, this is like a movie, or like I'm watching someone's point of view, and but
you're in their brain.
I'm also getting to hear their thought process and all that. So it doesn't throw me off because I'm viewing it like that, I think. But I do get where you're coming across as far as like if I was like if he was like telling a story. And I think he does a good job of not turning it into like switching POVs where that makes it confusing.
Yes.
Yeah. So the only other first person present tense book that I've read in 10 years or so probably is also the worst book I've read in my entire life. Fuck, what is the name of that book? Ready Player One.
Oh, yeah.
And Pierce Brown does a way better job of not just treating this first-person POV like a self-insert.
Yeah.
And, like, stroking his own ego. Like, Darrow has flaws, and he's, like, a character. Like,
Right. And so I was going to ask you about that, Whitson, because you're big on characters, and I feel like the characters in this book are really good.
It's hard for them to be as deep, I feel like. In a multi-POV book, you get different perspectives of people, and it fleshes them out more.
All you get is Darrow.
Right. So some of the characters feel a little flatter, but then there are also these developments with the characters that I thought were flat, where it's like, oh, that's an added layer. Like the fact that Titus is a red. He's another Sons of Ares insert, presumably. That gives him way more depth. than I thought he was just evil because we need an evil guy, we need a bad dude.
Yeah.
So like, I've liked it so far. The first person perspective thing is weird, but it also feels like it's just constantly driving forward.
Yeah,
Like boom,
that is
boom, boom, boom.
that is one of the things that I will give it credit for is the pacing has been immaculate. Like it just feels like we're just constantly moving on to the next thing, and like there's times where like I feel like they drop some like lore or something like that about like how the universe got up to here, and in my mind I'm like I should go back and reread that because I want to figure out what's happening. But also at the same time I'm just so entranced by what's going on in the story that I want to continue reading on with it.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to say, and that's why it was so easy for me to get through the first 3 books when I first read this. Because it's like the pacing is just there, man. It's like constantly something, but you're still getting character development. You're still getting, you said, little lore drops. And so, like, knowing y'all are having, because I read it all the way through, knowing y'all are having to stop, like, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say the one thing, and this isn't a knock on the book. This is just the realities of my life, my situation. But it's been really hard for me to listen to this at work because of the pace and because of the first person perspective. And like, it's, if I miss something in a multi POV book, I'll get it from another character later. You know what I mean? This book, I've had to like stop and go back a chapter and like re-listen to something because I'm like not completely focused on it, and it's all from Darrow's POV and it's all present tense. He's not reflecting on the past really at all.
Right. And so like if you do get something from another character, like it's something that he noticed, and so it's like probably not going to pop up again.
Yeah.
I get that.
But like I said, that's no hit on the book. That's just my situation. But also, the audiobook's not the greatest.
Yeah, I agree with that. Honest. I agree with that 100%. I would suggest actually reading it because that's what I did the first time, and it was. I felt like the audiobook was easy to get through because I love the book, but reading it was like page turner. Like I'm in
confirm.
it. Yeah.
Can confirm. I don't have the copy of it, so I've been reading on an ebook, but can confirm.
Yeah, it's just so easy to just like sit there and lose yourself in it.
Yeah.
What'd y'all think about the Sons of Ares that we meet? Harmony and Dancer and who else did we meet? Harmony, Dancer, the doctor, I forgot his name.
The whole thing kind of reminds me of Cyberpunk, if I'm being honest. The Cyberpunk 2077 like original storyline with like the Edge Runners. And how like there's these upper echelons of society, the corpos who run everything, and it's like we're gonna do our little odd jobs and like commit some terrorist acts and try to destabilize things, but like ultimately we're kind of ineffectual right now.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I especially really enjoyed like the whole like medicine super soldier transition scene that we got with Darrow.
Yeah.
The entire time I was reading that, I've been on a Warhammer 40K kick recently. So I've been like, I have a 3D printer. So I've been like 3D printing minis and Space Marines and all that stuff. And I read that and I'm like, they're making Darrow a Space Marines. They're genetically modifying him. It's like, so like I was all over that chapter where they were just genetically modifying him. I was like, this is so dope.
Yeah. Well, and that's the deal. It's like, so like these golds are like, I mean, they have been breeded to, perfection. Like even with the school, like you see when they do the culling or whatever, where it's like they 100 get in, but only 50 actually make it because they get the weaker ones out. Like they have like bred. I mean, it's Darwinism to its peak. Even the war games, like it's like the strong survive, and then so like you see like Darrow, he's like 4 foot. When we first meet him, I don't know how tall he actually is, but he's like really little, like really like he's meant to be a lesser being, so to say. And so like it's not, and I think that's one thing I like about this book too is like it's not like they made him like super like he could just do everything the Golds could do without surgery. Like he had to have modifications, he had to have something to stand up to them. But his brain was there. They didn't do anything to his brain. Like he's got the intelligence of it, and like
they gave him some like synaptic accelerators or something they called it. So they like plugged some shit into his brain to make his brain work faster. But he was already crazy smart, or he wouldn't have been able to handle it.
And dexterous. It talks about how his hands and so yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I liked the transformation thing, and I liked the way that they got him into the school. Like all the political intrigue stuff has made sense,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which sometimes throws me off in books when characters are making dumb decisions that are also like don't fit, But this book's been really consistent all the way up,
And,
and like the culling thing, uh, I thought it was cool. That was a cool concept, especially with this being like us leading into a battle royale situation.
yeah.
Um, it's hard for me to grasp that the Golds would just intentionally throw their children into this, though. Like unless they're really confident that their kids are going to survive.
So it gets into that in later books, but basically the Golds believe in what they're preaching. Like
Oh,
most
they
of the
just
Golds,
fully buy into it.
yes,
Okay.
not all of them, but most of them believe like they are meant to be the leaders. They are
Yeah.
meant to lead society. They are meant to like they are born and bred for this. They are better beings. Like they are. Uh, oh, what's that like?
Superior.
Yeah, they're superior. Um, but and they most of them have bought into that. So
Yeah.
like uh,
Well, so like Julian's death is what I'm thinking of, right?
right.
Like that's what I'm thinking of, and I mean, if 50% of them die, you'd have to be real confident in your kids to send them, I would
Right.
think.
Well,
Unless
okay,
you've drank the Kool-Aid and you're
Right.
really
Well, that's the
legitimately
thing.
Spartan.
That's what I feel like it is they've all drank the Kool-Aid. They've lived in the society for so long that they're all just like drinking the Kool-Aid and on board with the fact that like, oh yeah, like and also I feel like there's a lot of ego that comes with that. Like if you drink the Kool-Aid that says you're the best and no one can stop you, then you're yeah, my children are the best, no one can stop them. I'll send them in to
yeah.
go fight. Like they're so blinded by their ego that reality can't touch them, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, the ego's there, and some of them don't even know that happens, right? Like like obviously the upper echelon do. It talks about how the Bolognas knew, Julian and them. Um, well, Julian didn't know, but I think Cassius did, and some of the other Antonia, I think she knew.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, but yeah, I mean, it's very ego driven, and so like Julian was. Has it talked about how the Bolognas and the Augustuses are
No.
each other? Okay, so like,
Spoilers.
it's not really a spoiler. I think
Yeah, who cares?
I think it did mention that already. But it just in
Maybe. I
passing.
might have missed it.
It doesn't really. That comes in a lot later, but like I think it mentioned passing, but it does come in a lot later. But yeah, Julian was definitely he was like had the smarts, and like it talks about how he was
Gifted with the razor.
well the that and the Krav Maga or whatever the martial arts.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it talks about how but I mean, Darrow's just a monster. Like, you got to understand, like, even in this society, like, Darrow's surgery has put him, like, top 1% of gold. So, like, Julian was probably was supposed to make it in theory,
Mm-hmm.
but Darrow is an outlier. So,
Yeah.
that too, along with the ego, though. Like, so I do get what you're saying as far as, like, but, like,
He
later
also
on,
didn't seem to have any killer instinct,
right.
Julian.
And I believe it talks. I don't know if it has talked about it yet, but it does bring that up. It says Cassius brings up like Julian wasn't meant for this. Like I tried to talk him out of it. Um, he's not a killer, you know.
Yeah.
But
I see that being a huge point of contention. I like Cassius as a character, and I think that him and Darrow are like good together. The him getting beaten and pissed on, that was Titus, right? That was Titus and his goons that did that.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
See, that was really weird to me.
well,
Well, I don't know. I mean, I was doing something while I was listening to it, so maybe I missed some stuff. What's the context around that? What did I miss?
so basically, they have the different factions within House Mars. So
Right. Did
you've
he
got
call him out in the middle of the group or something? Is that what Titus was getting revenge for?
So I believe at this point we're not well, at this point we are, but like before that when that was going on with Cassius, like they weren't fully all against each other yet.
Hmm.
It was like we got our own groups, but we're still kind of like House Mars or whatever. But then once Titus started his I believe that's when Titus actually started his
capturing the women and taking them up
capturing
to
the
the
women
tower.
and his anarchy chaos mindset. And so it was just so Cassius is like this golden child. It talks about how pretty he is, and he belongs to House Bologna. So and we know Titus is a red now. So he's basically pissing on Golden Society. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I get what Titus's motivations would be outside of the game, outside of the context. I just didn't know if Cassius had pissed him off somehow, and I just missed it. Besides just being his opposition.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what happened, but I think he went and told him to do something. And yeah, I think Cassius tried to go boss him around, and Titus didn't.
Yeah.
But so speaking of Cassius, and you talked about what do you think is going to happen with that between him and Darrow?
I think at some point it's going to come out that he killed Julian. Also, I think he's about to kill Titus.
I don't think he's going to kill Titus.
I mean, he's the other red. He could bring the whole thing down. He's being a loose cannon, a shithead.
That is true.
But he could fuck up all of Darrow's plans.
Yeah. Well, we also see that.
I think he's I think he's gonna have this moral dilemma about it, being he is, he's not the enemy. Basically, he is someone I need to. I'm fighting for him. Essentially, is what's happening.
He's one of my people.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we see that Darrow, even though he's filled with revenge, he still doesn't agree with how Titus is handling.
Mm-hmm.
He's not completely apathetic.
Right. He doesn't agree with the raping of the women. He doesn't agree with all the just
violence.
Mm-hmm.
So and so I think that's interesting too, to see two different, because at that point we know that there's different mining colonies across Mars, and so different basically, so he didn't know Titus before that, but there's different sections where Darrow lived. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's really interesting to see the different mindsets of coming into the revenge aspect of it. And when y'all learn more about Titus's backstory, you get a little piece of his backstory. You understand why he is the way he is too, and why he thinks it's okay for.
It's just all the shit he's doing.
Right. But and going into even though Darrow doesn't agree with it, we see when he's talking to Mustang after he gives the standard back, he's like, "Would you care?" He tells her "Would you care if it was a red?" All that stuff was happening too, and so we still see that he's got that mindset
you're doing all this shit to Reds, so why should I care that he's doing this shit to you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah. What other characters stood out to y'all? What do y'all think about Mustang, Severo?
Man, the side characters have not been super interesting to me.
That's what I've been saying. I feel too, genuinely, I finished this section Wednesday, and I honestly couldn't tell you who did what with the side characters, with their names, just because they just don't stand out to me. I know what's going on, but
I think it's a consequence of the first person present tense. Because he'll honestly, Severo, I was not tracking Severo at all until right there at the end with the standard.
Yeah.
Cassius is cool. Titus is evil, or a bastard anyways. Maybe not evil, but those are the only two side characters that really stood out to me.
Mm-hmm. So
after Dancer and the Ripper Doc. Those characters were,
and all them, yeah.
Yeah.
So those as their relationships develop with Darrow. So right now we're getting Darrow's relationship with Cassius. It's developing that. As he starts developing these relationships with the other characters, you'll get a lot more into their mindsets and all that.
Yeah.
But
this first book's also really short, and it seems like they just get longer and longer.
And that's what I really want to I don't, even for the Patreon, I want to do the second, third book at least pretty soon, because they are kind of shorter too, so it'll be easier to do. And also the first book is great. I feel like it just gets better. and like especially the political intrigue, the fighting, the action,
Well, I'm
and then
sure we'll go
also
into the broader universe, right?
Yeah.
This
you will.
settled universe.
Yes. So like this is like this is all in a dome. Like starting in the second book, whole like it just
spoilers, man, spoilers.
Yeah.
Come on now.
well, you know.
I mean, it's written in
But
first
yeah,
person,
I'm
present
assuming.
tense, so you gotta imagine that the main character is gonna live through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's more books.
Unless Lightbringer just ends on a cliffhanger with Darrow dead.
But yeah, see what do y'all think about the game and like the houses and all that?
I think it's interesting. I think it makes sense. It's kind of formulaic, like it matches up with other battle royales that I've read.
Yeah, like it's very much like Hunger Games-esque.
It makes sense from the Gold's perspective, right? Like this like hyper Darwinism, this eugenic approach. It makes sense within the story, and I don't hate it. I don't think it's like overdone or outplayed.
I think it's executed well.
Yeah.
I like how they have the capture the flag type mechanic basically going on. It's not just like Hunger Games, which is everyone battle to the death. It's very much like there's objective and goals, and there's politicking that even goes on within the process. Like when you
and there's a way to permanently get a player out of the game without killing them with the enslavement thing, which I think is a cool little.
I was going to ask what y'all thought about the enslavement thing and how that would tie into the Gold Society too.
I bet they stay slaves forever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just shows the Golds that it's like, hey, this person, like, they're not fit for leadership in the sense that they can easily be enslaved. They can, like, there's like a TV show or something like that that said, like, the best investment you can make is buy a U.S. congressman. And it's like, if the Golds are running society, they don't want people being able to manipulate the Golds. They want them to be able to do it all themselves. They don't need these giant corporations, monies, and things like that. And so I feel like the enslavement part is trying to weed out the people who would be easily bought, easily,
easily overpowered or outsmarted.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's also trying to like instill in these younger Golds that this is okay.
Well, and that when you have power over someone, you should make sure that they're completely subjugated to you.
Yeah, complicit. Yeah, have it. Yeah, I agree with that.
And that reinforces the caste system. It's like, if people are beneath you, they are absolutely subject to you.
Yeah. And that's what you talk about this being a small book, but I feel like there's so much in it.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
It is literally a short, small book, but there is a lot in here to think about.
Yeah, and I feel like it's written so well. Me personally, I think he wrote it well. I know y'all don't like the point of view, but like as far as his writing and all that, I feel like he did it really good.
Well, it's not even that I don't like it. It's just like uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like there's like a growing pain thing.
Like
when
you have a rock in your shoe. Like you can still walk and you're gonna walk places, but it's just like there, and you're like.
Yeah.
I think I can get over it. I think with 5 or 6 books, I mean, I'll get used to it eventually, but it's just a little jarring. And like I said, comparing it to the only other first-person present tense book that I've read in the last decade, a million times better. I mean, a billion times better, infinitely better.
Yeah. See what else? What do y'all think about the Proctors?
They're kind of two-dimensional cartoon characters a little bit, or at least the one for House Mars is. What's his name? Fincher or something? Fitchner. Yeah, he's a 2D cartoon character. Fucking cartoon villain.
Interesting.
So far.
Then you got something to do with that.
It's like Wile E. Coyote or some shit.
Yeah. What about all the other like? I think have you seen the other? Yeah, you've seen the other ones like where they come like to watch. They like feast over them while they're all fighting and killing each.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do y'all think about that?
So I'm thinking that these Peerless Scarred at this point are just psychopaths.
Mm-hmm.
Like
they're very
insane.
They're very narcissistic, egotistic, apathetic people.
Yeah.
But they are the Peerless Scarred of the Gold. Like they're top 1%. Like they're of a society of the Golds who is already a society that is all those things anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and like I was saying, they buy into all this. So like they think like the more
they are peerless.
Yeah, we are peerless. Yeah, so they're okay with all that, and so that makes the society as a whole like really understand. Like y'all been introduced to some of the other colors too. Like pinks are for pleasure, and silvers are like your middle management people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, copper are law enforcers. Is that right?
The grays are like kind of like the law
Oh, the
enforcement.
grays. Yeah,
Grays are like law enforcement, lower soldiers. Have y'all been introduced to blues, obsidians, any of that?
obsidians we've seen.
Obsidians, yeah. They're like
Blues, I
the
don't think we have.
obsidians. They're like the dumb super soldiers.
Yeah,
And we've learned a lot more
the
about them
Sardaukar.
too. Yeah.
Sardaukar.
Yeah. Like I said, the second book and further, it really expands the universe.
Yeah.
This introduces Darrow and some of the other main characters.
Well, see, like we're barely halfway through the book, and I'm like, even if we weren't reading it for the podcast, I think I'd definitely continue just based on what we've read so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's.
Well, you also did like make us stop at the biggest like.
I tried to find a good spot in the middle. There was a spot I really wanted to go to other than that spot, but it was too far.
Too far. Yeah.
Yeah.
And y'all will get there pretty quick, and you'll know what spot I'm talking about.
Probably the end of part 3,
I fully plan
on
finishing this book like tomorrow.
I will probably finish it on Sunday, I think.
Is there anything else that jumps out at y'all? Y'all want to talk about the test? Picking like the drafting process, anything like that?
Well, how much politic was in? How much politic was in the drafting process, and how they were trying to like even out the houses in a way, or like uneven the houses.
Okay,
that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how much control do you think that these politicians and stuff have over all this?
A lot.
60 or 70% of all of this is just politicking.
Okay, so going into that and bringing up your earlier question about Julian, do you think it was random that he got stuck with Darrow?
I don't think it was random. I think either they thought Julian was going to slaughter him, or someone wanted the Bolognas to be weaker and they thought Darrow was going to slaughter Julian.
Yeah.
Or both. Two different parties could be at play who are like, oh, well, Julian's got to get through easy, so we're going to take this random kid from this unknown house and put him in there, and Julian will just slaughter him.
But they wouldn't do that because he was literally the 10th pick. Like Darrow was the 10th pick, right? Like for the draft.
So he was the 10th overall pick. First pick for House Mars.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't.
So if they really wanted Julian to succeed, they're not going to put him against someone. So unless they see him as a threat and they're like, we're going to put him. I don't know. I'm intrigued by that stuff too.
So, what's his name? Who's the guy that was his mom's like a big political figure and he died and wasn't supposed to and didn't show up? Praxis or
Praxis, something like that. Yeah, audiobook. I don't know how it's spelled.
Who do you think got rid of him?
I'm wondering if it was the girl, the crazy girl. Is that Antonia?
Antonia? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is she the one that Darrow had the encounter with at the beginning of all the testing and shit? Or is she in another house?
So you talking about the blonde on the horse?
Maybe.
The one
is that Mustang?
Yeah, that's Mustang. The one he sees multiple times before that. He talks about how.
Yeah, he sees her in the showers and like she blushes and he's like, "Oh, that's not very gold of her."
Yeah, so the one he sees in the showers and on the horse is the same girl, and that's Mustang. That's why he calls. That's why he calls him. Well, one of the reasons he calls him.
Okay. See, I lost that. I was lost in the sauce. The perspective. That's the one thing about the perspective that's really bugging me is it's so easy to lose this shit in the sauce because it's all from Darrow and like you're not getting context clues really.
Yeah, I think it'll get better as it goes on, and especially in the next book. But but yeah, I could see how, especially like introducing these characters, especially because you're character driven, how it would expect like be a little bit more frustrating because you're just getting
Well,
his perspective.
it's not a knock on the book. Like it's my fault for not paying enough attention. It's just
Mhm.
hard to pay attention. It's really hard to pay enough attention to this first person perspective thing
Mhm.
because there aren't other perspectives giving me context clues and building up this whole puzzle. It's like it's one set of eyeballs on the puzzle, and like where that set of eyeballs is at any given moment, it's is a little bit harder to keep track of. But
Yeah.
that's not the book's fault. That's my fault.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I can't think of
I
anything else.
have I have one thing that I wanted to talk
Okay.
about. It said it was like one of those things again that was like barely talked about in passing, but it said like it was talking about like how Darrow was like so confused as to like why they would just waste lives here, things like that. And they're one of the proctors or one of the like the golds in charge or whatever was like, we have like there are 100 million of you in the galaxy. We can spare a few, or it was something like that.
Yeah.
What
He
are
said there were I thought he said there were 100 million of you on Mars.
yes
Yeah.
that yeah, there's that kind of put into perspective just how big this universe is.
Yeah.
And it's like because we've been reading a lot of fantasy where it's like small highly populated settlements, but now it's like I don't know, it just kind of opened my mind to just how vastly populated this galaxy is, and also just how massive, like how many options there are for people basically. And it's like, yeah, we do not, it's so they're so merciless with it that just kind of like threw me off for a loop. I don't know why.
That
Yeah.
it is a weird way to have to change your outlook on things because like we've been reading fantasy set in like medieval
Yeah.
or like pre-industrial, and like this is not a struggling humanity that
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
observing.
Yeah.
Like this is incredibly successful humanity, like colonizing the stars and not really having any like opposition. It seems like maybe aliens come in at some point, but I mean, this seems like just humans taking over everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting to see how like merciless they are with it,
Mhm.
which is cool. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just interesting to me.
Yeah. Well, that goes back into like how they like believe and how they, because when they conquered Earth, you know, the iron golds or whatever that went to Earth, that's how they conquer. So like I said, they fully buy into what they're shooting. It's not like those societies where it's like, um, the slaves are the slaves, and you got a bunch of fat guys feeding each other grapes or whatever, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
little wusses. Like these are machines of war and
Yeah.
politicking, and how intelligent they are, and like they study, like from the time they're born, they study war.
Yeah.
Mhm. Honestly, it reminds me a lot, which probably just because I'm reading them at the same time, but it reminds me a lot of Lightbringer and the Satrapies in Lightbringer.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe book two was too early to see a lot of it, but no one is stupid. No
Yeah.
one
Yeah,
is stupid. No one is powerless. Everyone's incredibly strong, incredibly smart, incredibly skilled at politic, and it's like it is a very dangerous game.
Yeah.
yes, yes, that is the perfect way to put it. Like you're not going to go out and find a dumb gold, and if they
Right.
are, they're getting cold. Like Darwin, like survival of the fittest is very prevalent,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah. I
because they
think.
do things like the culling. I mean,
Mm,
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, it gives it a high stakes feel pretty much all the time, which is cool. I think that's another part of the pacing is like there's never there's never downtime. There's never a moment
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, oh, Darrow's not in any danger here. Like, no, if he exposes himself to anyone, he's dead.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and the high stakes, I think adds to the pacing and like
For sure.
intenseness factor.
Yeah. I think that's all we got though, right?
Yeah. I think
Is
that's.
there any story points or anything that you guys wanted to talk about?
Not that I can think of off the bat. Just
Hmm?
read to finish, and
Yeah.
we'll talk about it next time. And I want to
Yeah.
see y'all's thought process on how it ends.
Yeah. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah. So everybody check out our Patreon.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about our TBRs.
Also our TikTok. MD needs to do Sunlit Man on the TikTok.
I need to do
Dylan
everything.
needs to do the Pariah on the TikTok.
Yeah.
We do everything.
And then I'm gonna do some stuff on the later Lightbringer books.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Speaking of that, we want to talk about our TBR real quick.
Yes.
So I'll go first. So like what Sin just said, I literally finished the Sunlit Man last night or the night before. The night before. No, it was last night. I finished it last night. Sorry, I've slept since then. Really good. I'll talk about it more on the TikTok, hopefully. And now I'm just having the internal debate of what to read next between The Well of Ascension, or Dragon Reborn, or Malice. And I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go with The Well of Ascension, but I'm not locked in stone yet. So that's.
What are you reading, Dylan?
I'm at the exact same spot I was last episode. I'm off work again, so it's like I'm not going through books or anything.
Yeah.
I'm probably, when I do start something back up, I'm gonna jump into, unless we're gonna do these books for the Patreon, I'm gonna jump into Iron Gold, which is the fourth. And then I bought it's called The Will of the Many by James Islington or something like that. I've heard really good things about it, and it's got really good reviews, so I'm gonna give it a go.
We need to do Malazan. We need to do Malazan really badly.
Yeah.
Maybe next year. Next summer. Do Malazan. I don't know what made me think about that. The Will of the Many thing. So I'm reading Lightbringer still. I'm most of the way through the Burning Light at this point. Holy shit. If you like the first two, keep reading. I mean, we might do the rest of them for the Patreon, but it just got better and better and better. And haven't made any progress on Codex Alera or Wheel of Time. They're still on my TBR. I'll pick them back up at some point, but Lightbringer's sucked up all my free time.
Yeah. That's dope.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with that, we'll go ahead and end the episode off here. Thanks everyone for watching. We ask that you share, follow, like, subscribe on your preferred platform. We're on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, but also Patreon, where you can get bonus content. So really go check that out.
Our videos as soon as we make them.
Yeah.
So you don't have to wait.
We are recording this, just to give you guys a peek behind the curtain. We are recording this on November 4th. This episode will not release to the public until November 15th. So if you want early access to our episodes, go check out our Patreon. And then also our TikTok and our Discord. So yeah, go check all those stuff out. We appreciate y'all for watching and listening. And we will see you all on the next one.
Peace.